Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today's episode is a very special and deeply personal one. December 8th marks the anniversary of my ex-husband's passing. And as I reflect on his life and the years we shared together, I also reflect on the journey that came after. Our divorce, the healing, and the choices we made as parents. Divorce changes everything. It changes you to redefine yourself, your family, and your sense of peace. It's easy to get lost in the emotions, the anger, frustration, guilt, even shame, and to forget why you choose that person in the first place. But when children are involved, we have a responsibility that goes beyond our pain. My ex-husband and I didn't always see eye to eye, but we share one unshakable truth. Our daughters were and always will be our priority. Navigating that path, learning to co-parent, to forgive, and eventually to find a friendship despite the hurt was not easy, but we did it. And if we could, so can anyone else. As a coach, I work with women who are in many different stages of their lives, and many of them are single moms going through the process of divorce. I do my best to guide them, to show them that there is a way to end a relationship without involving the children, without oversharing details that can, in a way, wound them, and without using them as a weapon to hurt the other parent. It's possible to protect your children's hearts while you rebuild your own. So today, in his memory, I want to honor not only the father he was, but also the growth that came from our shared journey. I am grateful for his willingness to maintain a relationship built on respect and love for our girls. And I honor myself too for choosing not to let pain dictate my path, but to let it open me to new possibilities. To mark this day, I am sharing an interview I did with a dear friend, an expert in divorce, a legal document assistant, mediator, and a host of the Amicable Divorce Expert podcast. This conversation is full of wisdom, compassion, and practical tools to help anyone facing this difficult chapter move through it with grace, understanding, and love. So as we remember those we have loved and lost, let this episode be a reminder that healing is possible, that peace can exist after a breakup, and that honoring someone's memory can also mean celebrating how far we have come.
Where are you on your divorce journey? By that, I mean, where are you emotionally? There are two divorces. There's the legal divorce, and that's the divorce everybody thinks about. It's the decisions about stuff. Who gets the house? Are we dividing the Ks? And then the important parts, which of course are the co-parenting plans and child support, all of that. But what people really don't understand is there is another divorce, and it's the emotional divorce. And the emotional divorce is about the 7 stages of divorce grief. And if you don't go through those stages correctly, ending up in the Mount Rushmore of those stages, which are steps 6 and 7, acceptance and forgiveness, all those other logistical decisions about money, they're not going to stick. They're going to be really tough to make. So I recently met our guest, Claudia Noriega Bernstein, when she interviewed me recently on her podcast, Don't Shrink to Fit. And we were going to talk about me and divorce, but really, we talked about Claudia because when she opened up with how she handled her divorce journey, I was all in. I wanted to hear more. And then I said, no, my audience has to hear more. So I appreciate that you have joined us, Claudia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here and share my story with your audience and, of course, spend time with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So just to let everybody know, this is what Claudia is doing now. She has a very rich background of entertainment, but currently, and for the last several years, she's been an abundance coach. And I love that, Claudia. I love the word, and I love that you have to mentally position yourself for that. But not only is she an abundance coach, she's an author of a book called Brighter Days, very uplifting. And as I just mentioned, she's a podcast host of Don't Shrink to Fit, which is just a wonderful podcast. So, Claudia, acceptance and forgiveness, you got to Mount Rushmore, but there were 5 steps before that. And let me just tell the audience what they are, and then I want you to just start talking about how your journey started. And so the 5 steps, first 5 of the 7 are shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression. And then our world opens up and we have acceptance and forgiveness. And then our life is better because of that. So, Claudia, talk to me about how this started, when this started. Did you have children at the time?
Yes. So my ex-husband, he passed away 5 years ago. And yes, as you said, we were able to manage a beautiful relationship for many years after the divorce. But taking you back to the beginning, we got married pretty fast. We got married 4 months after we met. And as far as I knew, I couldn't have kids. So I imagined a life totally different with him. I thought he was an entertainer and I was going to be a groupie. And that was going to be it, right? But I got pregnant after we got married. And then we decided, okay, this is the way our life is going to be. Let's try again. It took me 3 years to have my second baby, a lot of infertility issues. And then I have my surprise baby, my third baby. And we had a very happy life. He was a wonderful man. He was funny, loving, caring. He was amazing with the kids. And you think, we live happily ever after, but sometimes life takes a turn. And I got cancer. And I think cancer really affected him in a way that it was very unexpected for me. All his demons came up and he started acting very differently. I don't know if he was afraid that he didn't know what happened if she dies. Am I going to be a single father? Whatever reason it was in his brain, make him make the decisions that were very detrimental to our marriage. So after I had my surgery, I asked him one night to bring me a gallon of milk. We used to work together. I used to manage his show on the Strip here in Las Vegas. And I was in bed. I had my stitches in my neck. I couldn't, my first cancer. I had cancer 3 times, but my first one was in my thyroid. And he came, I heard the door downstairs and I was expecting him to come upstairs, right? But then I hear the door close again. And I'm thinking to myself, this is weird. Maybe somebody broke into my house. I went to the window in my daughter's room and I saw a girl sitting in my convertible and I didn't know what was happening. Now, when you have such a fulfilled and abundant life, and I'm not talking only about material things, there is a misconception about abundance. People think that abundance is just cars and houses. It starts within. And we had a beautiful, abundant life. And so when I saw that girl sitting in my car, his car was in the shop. We had his car, my convertible, and a minivan. So the minivan wasn't very cool to go to work with. So he took my convertible that day. I started to think, well, maybe he's giving her a ride. Maybe this is, a cousin. I mean, I didn't know what to think, right? But in that moment, also, I had another side of my brain because of a lot of trauma response when I was a child and a lot of betrayal when I was growing up that made me doubt it. So I went downstairs. We had a living nanny, and we were living a very comfortable life. And I said to my nanny, I'll be right back. And it was probably 11:30 at night. I was in pajamas. I took my minivan, and I went to the only place that I thought he could be. Right? Because where else is he going to go if he didn't go and drop this girl somewhere? And I just went to have some peace in my mind, like all these doubts are wrong. He's going to be right back home. He just given somebody a ride and brought the milk for whatever reason before he dropped her, like trying to create excuses in my brain. I went to the office and I saw my car parked outside. So I parked my minivan like a block away. And when I started walking back to that apartment, because we had an office in an apartment that had a garage underneath, and for some reason he didn't park the car inside the garage. He left it outside. And then you have to go up the stairs. It started to rain. So imagine me soaking wet, not my best look, in pajamas, no makeup at all, right? Because I just came back from a surgery, not knowing what I was gonna. When I had my keys, obviously, of the office, I opened the door, and when I went up the stairs, I stood in the top of the stairs, just wondering what to do. I could hear them. They were obviously having sex. And I said to myself, is this enough evidence for me? Is this enough for me to just leave and not expose myself to whatever I'm going to see? And then I said to myself, no, because I cannot live a life with doubt. And I think I need to see what's going on. So I stepped into the frame of the door and I saw this gorgeous girl. She was 19 years old, I think. She was very young, sitting on top of him. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, they were doing it, okay? So I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I just leave? What do I do? I think she felt my presence and she turned around and Judy, I remember this like if it happened yesterday because I'm very visual, but also because my life in that moment wasn't what it was anymore. And I knew that it was never going to be the same. So she looked at me and then looked at him. He was laying in his back and he said, who is this? Who's that woman at the door? And he said, that's my wife. And in that moment, I was like, how is it possible that I'm your wife, yet you are with somebody else? How could you claim me as your wife if you're not giving me that respect? And I just look at him with sadness at that moment, not even with anger, like with sadness, like, look what you did to our life. Look what you did to our family. Look what you did to me. And I said, please come pick up your stuff tomorrow. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't scream. I didn't call her names. I just turned around and left. I remember coming home and crying myself to sleep. I took my convertible, by the way. I left the minivan parked a block away. It was kind of like an ownership for me, like, damn right, you're not getting my car back. She can take a taxi.
I'm sorry, this is a great movie scene, by the way. I have always asked myself, I like to put movie scenes together in dramatic moments in people's lives. And I wondered what I would have ever done if I was in your situation. And you did exactly what I have envisioned I would have done in your position. No screaming, no fit. And you just experienced shock. And you didn't want to be in denial that if you didn't open the door, maybe it wasn't what you thought
in a movie, okay? Like we were watching a movie. It's not what you think or whatever. So I had to see it. I needed the evidence in my head. And let me say this to your audience. That was probably one of the most terrible moments in my life. I can talk about it now and joke about it and laugh about it because I have gone through my process of healing. But it didn't happen overnight, and I didn't become the Dalai Lama a week after, you know? I had to really go through all the stages that you talk about. So the next day he calls in the morning, mind you, and asks me where the car was. I think he wasn't thinking, right? Because who does that? And I said, at that moment, I couldn't be as composed as I was the night before. So I said, you can tell that bitch to take a taxi, and hung up the phone. So it was a process. I asked him for the divorce. After a couple of months, he tried to pursue me again for a little bit. I kind of reconsidered because this is not a black and white moment. You want to believe that was an oops and whatever. Yep. So I tried to give him an opportunity, but then I had to have a conversation with myself. Are you going to be able to put this in the back? Are you going to be able to really trust this person again? Are you going to be able to forgive him? Because in that moment, I wasn't thinking about me having any responsibility whatsoever. There was all him. He did this to me. He did this to my girls. He did this to us. He did this to our family. I have no blame. I have no responsibility. I'm not accountable. I'm the victim in this situation. And that was my state of mind, right? For a few months, actually. I packed his stuff, he left, he tried to pursue me a little bit, we kind of went back and forth, and then I decided, no, I'm moving out, we're getting a divorce, we're selling the house. The first 2 years were very challenging because to an extent he wanted to punish me. He went to the extent of saying, you're going to come back crawling, I'm not going to give you child support, you're going to live in a one-bedroom apartment, which I did with my 3 girls, I'm not giving you anything. He wanted to punish me for the decision that I made to stand for myself. Because for him, that was sex, it's not love, you're the love of my life, what are you Why are you doing this to us? And during all that year, my priority were my daughters more than getting a job or getting back on my feet or anything else. I just wanted to give my kids that time to transition to the new normal that was going to be our life. Yeah. So I sold everything that I owned. The only thing I didn't sell was myself, but I sold everything, every outfit, every purse. And we, as I told you, we were having a very comfortable life. So I had a lot of things to sell that were mine, you know, my jewelry, whatever I had to sell, I sold to support myself that year without working. I moved to a very tiny apartment with my kids, and I was there every step of the way. Every time they wake up crying, every time they miss their dad, every time they didn't know why are we living in this little house and we go to the big house, you know, because we sold the house and he bought another house that was 10 times bigger than mine because he was a bread maker. You know, he was making all the money. I was working with him, but we're no longer together, so I wasn't getting half of anything. A lot of money in lawyers, a lot of trips to the court, and you know, after a year, you know, I started finding jobs and I work in different places, and that's a whole different story. But my process with him started about 2 years after we got divorced. I was already working on myself. And one day I went and dropped my daughters in his house. And I remember this also like if it was yesterday. And my girls never heard me talk bad about him because that was something that I grew up with. And I didn't want my kids to feel that pressure of having to choose, or I didn't even want to teach them how to manipulate. You know, if I say this to mom, she's going to be good with me. And if I say this to dad, he's going to be good to me. So I didn't want that, okay? And in that sense, he was very much aligned with me. You know, our kids were a priority. We were very cordial with each other, but there was a lot of resentment. And because even though I was working on myself, I still was blaming him. I was not seeing any responsibility on my part. So I dropped the kids in the big house and I started driving away, and I saw through the mirror how they were running and hugging him, and I stopped in the corner and I started to cry. I pulled over and I started to cry in the car. He had seen me pulling over and he had a nanny. So he told the nannies probably to take the kids inside, and he walked to the corner. The big house that he had bought was a corner, so he could see that was still his property, but at the end, he knocked on my window. He offered me his hand to get out, and he hugged me without saying a word. And I get emotional about it because that was really the beginning of our healing. And he hugged me and he says, "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." And I look at him and I said, "And I am sorry for not seeing your demons." In that moment, I took responsibility for what it was my responsibility. They were red flags. I didn't choose to see them.
Can you just spend a minute on that? What did you mean by "I chose not to see your demons"?
I knew that he had had a very abusive childhood. I knew that he always felt unworthy. I knew that he had a very toxic relationship with his dad. I knew that when he goes on stage, when he was going on stage, he would feel that he matters. And I also knew how scared he was to have kids. When we got married, we were not going to have kids. And he was comfortable with that. The first baby was a surprise too. And I didn't notice the process he had to go through to embrace this family. And now I had cancer. And now he had to face this on his own, not having a role model as a father. He didn't know.
Okay, now Claudia, hold on for a second. I want to say this to the audience because you're hitting so many key points. A very important thing for everybody to know, and you just said it, is you need to know the family tree. You need to know from where somebody comes. What kind of parents? How were they raised? Were they given love? Were they attached to the parents? Were they on their own? I mean, there's all of this, right? Because if we all don't go into intensive psychotherapy, we will repeat the actions of our parents, not even knowing it, right?
The conditioning.
There you go.
That conditioning without asking, why do I feel like this? Why this thing is triggering me? Why I'm reactive when somebody says something to me. Listen, when I was a kid, I would say something to my mom and my mom would say, "That's not true." Simple sentence. "That's not true." When I got married with my actual husband, with my current husband, we were having a discussion and he turned around and he said, "That's not true. I was triggered." But that trigger gave me information that there is a part of me that still need to heal because I'm still in those patterns. I'm still reacting. I'm not neutral. I became my 6-year-old being accused of not saying the truth. And those patterns follow us to adulthood if we don't pay attention to those triggers. And my responsibility in the divorce was that I didn't pay attention to those triggers. And I didn't pay attention to the demons that he was going through. Maybe I shouldn't have a conversation with him. Maybe I shouldn't insure him. Maybe I should handle things I don't know. I'm not excusing the decision that he made to pick somebody from the show, take her to the apartment or the office and sleep with her. I'm not excusing that. What I'm doing is I'm giving him grace and giving myself grace to understand what was the reason why he made that decision. What did he needed that I wasn't giving him and that I didn't know he needed and that he didn't ask me for. It was more complex than just he got horny and went and slept with a 19-year-old. That's the easy title for the movie. That's not what happened. It was a process of him being scared, being nervous, not know how to handle it, feeling relevant. Because he wasn't relevant for a period of time. I was worried about my health.
Because it was
I
all, the
wasn't paying
focus was
attention.
on, yep, the focus was on you because it had to be. You have cancer, you have 3 daughters. Yes, got it.
Right.
Got it.
That hack, and I'm going to tell you this really, really fast. When I met him because he was with somebody. I was in Florida. He was with somebody, with a friend, and my best friend, like the friend, make me follow him in the car. He went to a dead end, turned the car around, knocked on my window, offered me his hand to get out of the car, and dance with me in between the 2 cars. So if you see that scene of me meeting him and that other scene of him doing exactly the same thing.
Just what I was thinking. Yes.
It was like we came complete circle in that moment. And one thing that I want to say to your audience, if you're going through a divorce or if you are divorced of somebody, don't forget that at some point you love that person. You cherish that person. You admire that person. You respect that person. You saw qualities in that person. That human, that being that you had all those feelings for, still inside that guy that you divorced. Maybe they are, under a lot of stuff right now. But that is part of that person. And if we were able to see that, it's because that was there. And I made the choice to dig in and try to find that again without the passion, because I could never be with him anymore in the same way, but rescuing those qualities that I did see at the beginning when he asked me to dance, when he was funny with the kids, when we were a happy family, and forgive him for the choices he made. And also forgive myself for the choices that I made. And some of them were looking the other way. Because if I really think about it, they were red flags that I chose not to see. That I decided that it was better if I didn't pay attention because we're happy and we have the life we want and we're invincible and nothing is going to take this away from me. So I gave myself grace and I forgave myself. And that was the beginning of my healing in this relationship. And we started, both of us, we had so many conversations without ego, without pride, without pointing fingers. It is what it is. You made a choice to pick somebody from the show. You went and have sex with that person. Yes, you love me so much, but I am not able to be in a relationship with somebody that I can trust because I also have my own trauma. And I also have my own history from when I was a kid and my relationship with my mother and how many times, other people had betrayed me. So I am not in a place where I could move on with somebody that betrayed me. I am not. I wasn't there. I'm a different person right now. In the same way that I honor every version of myself that have brought me to who I am right now.
Hi, ladies. Okay, this is it, your wake-up call. Because really, you know what you gotta do. You're just waiting for a sign. And you know what? There is no sign. It's a decision what you need to make. A decision to change what is not working for you anymore. How long are you going to talk about it? How long are you going to complain about it? Nobody's going to come and knock at your door and tell you, oh, I heard that you're unsatisfied with your life. That's not how it works. You have to make the choice. You have to decide that, yes, you are meant for more, and this is your time to get what you deserve in your life. We're in December. If you continue this way, next year, you're going to be exactly in the same place. And there's not going to be anybody else to blame but yourself. So, what is it going to be? The link is here. Make a decision. Make the call. Let's figure it out. How can I support you to get the life that you want? What are you waiting for? Enough is enough. This is your time. Your time is now. Today.
I also honored at that moment all the versions of himself, because he wasn't just a cheater. He was also a great dad. He was also a great friend. He was also an amazing son to his mother. He had qualities that, why would I erase them? Why would I dismiss them?
And this is acceptance. So this is stage 6. This is acceptance.
Exactly.
And both of you, it sounds like, got to that place, because you're telling your story. He had to have gone through some other soul searching, don't you think, on his own?
Yeah, but you know what I think it is? And this is funny, and I don't know if anybody in your audience believe on that, but I did a regression, and I found out in a past life he was my son. And I had an aha moment because, yes, aside of the passion part of it, I was the caregiver in the relationship. So he felt lost.
Gosh, because you were the manager, you were the business side, you put it all together.
I nurture him, I take care of the kids, I take care of him, I take care of the finances, I take care of everything. And suddenly he lost his best friend, he lost his family, so he lost a lot of things. He was angry at me because he didn't take responsibility at the beginning, like, I lost this. It's like, she took this away because she can't forgive me. This wasn't about forgiving. This was about me trying to come to terms with my enoughness, my worthiness, all my trauma since I was a kid that came back to me as, hurricane, showing me evidence that everything that I thought of myself when I was a kid is true. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not enough to have this. So I was dealing with my own demons. So I didn't have the space or the capacity to even nourish him or help him understand why I had made that decision. So that's what I said. The first 2 years were very hard for both of us, because even though he was still in love with me and I was still in love with him, we had to put, in a way, our heart in a box in the closet and just deal with the lawyers and just deal with the judge and just deal with the child support. And now, I mean, when I think about it now, we will be in court and he will be with his lawyer and I will be with my lawyer, and he was sitting in one side and we will look at each other and I'm like, fucking idiot. I mean, what are we doing this? Because deep inside we were very good friends. So that friendship didn't dissolve overnight. My husband betrayed me, but my friend was still there, and we had a lot of things in common, and we both missed that.
Wow.
So I think that was a lot of the big part was that, that when we were able to say I'm sorry, and me acknowledging my responsibility and also say I'm sorry to him, the tension kind of started diluting a little bit. And we became the best parents that we could be for our daughters, because we have a lot of differences in our life, but our vision to our kids was the same. So I have text messages of my husband, my ex-husband, saying, you are an extraordinary mother. I would not have the daughters that I have. It wouldn't be for you. My kids will go to his house and teenagers, they will complain, Mom this and Mom doesn't let me go until later, and all my friends. And he will always use the we. He will never use the she. We don't think you should be out that late. We don't think you should be hanging out with that friend. You might not understand that now, but We think that this is what it should be. Now, the difference was that he was a kid himself. So my kids will have ice cream and pizza for breakfast on the weekends when they will go to his house, right? There was no structure.
Love that. Love that. Claudia, hang in there a second. So you reached forgiveness. I just want to keep track with the audience when you both said, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's when you reached forgiveness. And you even said then things started melting. Things started getting a little better. And you could then connect stronger as friends.
Yes. We were not blaming anymore. We were not pointing the finger anymore. It didn't matter, honestly, at that point, who was right and who was wrong. We were not trying to convince. We were not looking for argument. The reality is this. You live in one home. I live in a tiny little bit apartment, and I will get out of there because I know my drive and I know what I'm capable to do. Right now, my priority is being as much time as possible with my youngest one because my youngest one was 11 months old. I mean, I got divorced with 3 kids under 5. It was so hard. So at the beginning, I didn't work in what I wanted to work. I didn't do a lot of things I wanted to do because my priority was being there with Sophia because she was a little baby. And to the point that sometimes he wouldn't take her on the weekend because, he was a bachelor and he had girls in the house and whatever. But you never heard me going to my kids saying, another girlfriend? Oh my God, your dad can get his zipper up or what? Never, never. To the point, Judy, that there were times, for example, I remember clearly one time there was bring your dad to school. He was a bachelor. He would forget to pick up the girls. He would forget to show up in schools, whatever. I moved to different places, but I tried to keep my kids in the same school. And I asked for zone variant zones or whatever so I could have them, so they would have some stability, right? And so the lady from the office called me and she's like, hey, Claudia, he didn't come. And Sophia is sitting in the backyard with all the other kids with their dad with her little pizza next to her. Imagine as a mom, I had 2 choices. Grab my purse, tell my boss, sorry, I have an emergency, I have to go, or go to the drama. Give him a call. I can't believe you forgot. What kind of a father are you? Da 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 da. And then go home and tell my kids, he's so irresponsible, so typical of him, right? No. I grabbed my purse. I went to school. It was almost the end of the event. My poor kid was sitting there with his cold pizza and the other pizza waiting for her dad. And I ran in and I go, oh my God, Sophie, I'm so sorry. And she goes, Mommy, my daddy forgot. And I go, baby, he didn't forget. He didn't forget. I was supposed to come. I was stuck in traffic. I couldn't make it. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. We're going to have our pizza. And I get so emotional because a lot of people were saying to me, why are you justifying him? You got to tell the girl. And I was like, I'm protecting the love that my kids have for their dad. This is not even about him. It's about my child growing up without thinking that she wasn't enough. I wanted always her to feel that mommy is there and daddy is there whenever they can be there. But it has nothing to do with you. Our action doesn't define you. And I remember eating that pizza with Sophie, and she didn't think more of it. She honestly believed me that I was stuck in traffic. And I forgot to tell her. She never got mad at me. She never said to her dad, I remember when I was in kindergarten that you didn't show. No. Now, when my kids grew up and he passed and I went with my oldest daughter. Mind you, he had 2 other marriages in between. We went with my oldest daughter to his condo to get all his stuff because we had become very good friends. He would come to my house. He was friend with my current husband. We were really a blended family.
And he apparently was not remarried at that time.
Who, I'm sorry?
He apparently was not remarried.
No, at that time when he passed, he wasn't. No, he had a really shitty girlfriend, but no, he wasn't remarried. But when I went with my daughter to pick up everything, I opened his briefcase and he had a picture of me.
I was waiting for this part.
And I was like, and I remember Talia opening and she goes, Mommy, look, Dad had a picture of you in his briefcase. And I was like, you fool, the life that we would have had. Not that I am not happy with my husband now, but life took a different turn, because a choice that he made and a choice that I also made, not seeing all these red flags. But also, my daughters found a lot of other pictures in his place of them little with other girls. And my oldest daughter turned around and she goes, I'm sorry, Mom. And I was like, why? And she goes, now I understand a lot. But it wasn't until she was 25. I didn't tarnish their love. I didn't, and I found out all the things that he had done when we were married that, of course, hurt me. It made me second guess myself, and I had to work through that. But my daughters didn't have to go through the pain of listening to their mom trashing their dad. And they didn't have to go through their dad saying things about their mom. And when we had the celebration of life for him, which I organized, and he had a stroke, and my kids told the surgeon that my mom is going to make the decision to disconnect our dad because we can't do it. And listening to my girls giving me that authority, that power, and trusting that I have loved this person and that I was going to make the best choice for him was huge. And when they were on stage, my oldest daughter said, my parents divorced when I was 6 years old, but we never stopped being a family. In a room packed with people. And they said, we grew up with dad being in every birthday, in every celebration. Mom was in anything that my dad did at home. We had our parents all the way. There was no choosing anything. I remember one time when my oldest daughter was like, I think 17, 18 years old, and he was supposed to pick up the two younger ones. And I said, you know what? I think he has something a rehearsal or something. And my oldest daughter, Talia, which is 3 years older than her sister, turned around and she goes, when are you going to stop making excuses for him? And I look at her and I went like that. And she goes, you're too much. Like she knew all along that I was making excuses, but she received those excuses because she knew my intention. She knew that I was protecting that love. But she, in a way, knew who her dad was, but she learned to love him, and they had an incredible relationship. She learned to love her dad with his flaws. And just at some point, she thought it was cute that I was making excuses for him, right? Like, Mom, when are you going to stop?
Okay, so this is the most incredible story I've heard to date, and I've been doing divorce for 13 and a half years. Most incredible story to date. I'm so happy you shared it. The one last question I have for you is about what it felt like inside when you were saying what you felt you had to say to spare your daughters of the reality of what their dad had done, forgetting to come to kindergarten and doing whatever. How did you feel inside when you chose to cover up as opposed to saying your dirty dog dad? How did you feel? I want people to know what that feels like for forgiveness.
It feels very neutral, to be honest with you. I wasn't pretending. I was totally in integrity with myself because my priority are my kids. There is no ego involved in this. What's the best thing I can do for them? How can I reach my best version to be the best mother to these girls so they don't grow up with the voids I grew up? So it stops with me. I am not going to pass on the patriarchy or the conditioning that I receive. You understand? I grew up with a mom who would talk in my ear while I was with my dad in the phone telling me what an asshole he was. And I adore my dad. And I didn't want my kids to have to go through that. And I think every parent out there that has gone through any harsh moments in their life don't want their kids to go through that. So why would you? You're not thinking about your kid. You think about you. You're thinking about proving your point. You're thinking about being right. You're thinking about winning. You're not winning. Because if you're winning, they are losing.
I can't believe you said that. I just did a little presentation a few weeks ago to a networking group I belong to on leadership. And I was talking about how to communicate through conflict. And I said, you have to change your point of view. Winning cannot be an option,
Right.
or you'll never get rid of the conflict. It
Right.
cannot be an option. The we, the us, how do we problem solve together? How can we be a team in this new version of ourselves? That's the only way to get through it. That's what you just said.
Yeah.
You had a
Yeah.
higher goal, a greater good that
Yeah.
you were aspiring to, and that was your children.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And my better version, because I was going through my healing and I knew he was going through his healing. Listen, when we had so many conversations and he said to me, Cla, he used to call me Cla for, and he was Italian, so Claudia, so Cla, if I ever have an accident, if I ever end up in the hospital, do not leave me hooked to a machine. I don't want that life. Promise me. Mind you, we were divorced and he had 2 marriages in between, okay? And he was asking me because, first of all, he knew that I am a woman of integrity. And if I give him my word, I'm going to follow through. He knew my character. And he knew that he could trust me. And that trust that we had when we were married got broken when that happened. But like the Japanese do it, we glue it back with gold. And we create a beautiful piece that we share with our daughters. And I think it's the best gift I could give to my kids.
And to yourself.
And to myself. And to him.
And to
because
him.
Model a behavior. I was a little more emotionally intelligent than him. And I was more curious than him. So I was very serious about my healing process. But you cannot make anybody do anything. You can only inspire them. So that's what I did. I inspire him to see that other side, those possibilities that were available for him. And he's very grateful. And I have an incredible relationship with my ex-sister-in-laws. They come to my house when I have a party. We talk all the time. When he passed away, he inherited my kids. His son, which I practically adopted. I mean, that kid is part of my life. I talk to him every day. He lived with me and my husband for a month when he had to go to tour and he didn't have anybody to leave the kid with. So he lived with me. Imagine my husband, taking care of the son of my ex-husband. And when he passed, he left everything to the kids and me.
That is pretty amazing, Claudia. That is so amazing. So just to circle back, and in conclusion, you went through all the cycles of grief. You ended up with forgiveness. You saw later on that it really wasn't you. Yes, you didn't see the red flags, but his choices had nothing to do with you because he had 2 other marriages that didn't work out. And not that we value money more than anything, but isn't it interesting? I opened with, you have to be emotionally centered before you can make decisions on the assets and debts, the money portion, all of that. And look what you got in the end. You got the gold. And that one phrase you just said, you glue it back with gold.
Yeah.
I have to title this episode, Glue It Back with Gold, because look at how everything ended up with you. You got gold. You got gold. You got gold.
I miss my friend. And I get to cry and I get to be sad and I got to mourn him with my daughters. It wasn't like, you go and mourn your dad. I want nothing to do with this person. No, we got to mourn him too. And we get together. I have only one of my daughters that lives in Las Vegas. The other one lives in Glendale. The other one lives in Miami. Every year on his birthday and every year on his anniversary, we get together and we celebrate him. We listen to his music. We have popcorn. And sometimes we are in a place and we smell popcorn and we look at each other like, your dad is here. It's a celebration. We honor him every time. And wherever he is, he knows. He knows that he's loved. And he knows that he's missed. And he knows that he's part of our life. And I feel so blessed to be able to have that and to share those moments with my daughters.
You created the blessing yourself.
I think we all did.
I think we all do. And you did it, Claudia. First of all, I don't know where the Kleenex is, but I think I need a Kleenex. I really appreciate this story. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say how they handled this life, what you experienced like you. And I have to tell you, I'm very lucky to have met you.
I feel the same way. Thank you.
No, I'm very lucky to have sat for your story because it's so important. And it gives me a lot to think about just in general in my life. Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you.
And you know what? I have the book that you mentioned at the beginning that I published a couple of weeks ago. I created that book 5 years. I created that book actually like a few months after he passed. and 5-year anniversary, I republished it more expansive. And those are my lessons up to now. There are 88 lessons that had allowed me and taught me and guide me to have this balance that I have in my life now.
Yeah.
And I call it brighter days because we all have brighter days waiting for us. We just to make that decision. What life do you want to live? Do you want to live a life with anger, with resentment, with trying to be right, to prove your point? Or do you just want to live a brighter day every day where you are open to receive and attract what's available for you and get rid of the toxicity, get rid of the negative. That doesn't serve you.
I'm ready, Claudia. I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. And this is your abundance coaching coming out, is it not? You have evolved to all the right places. Okay, so Claudia's information will be in the show notes. You'll know how to reach her and to have her work with you because now you know the effect she had on herself and the effect she can have for you on your life. Claudia, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciated this time with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to everybody listening, thank you so much, and watching. Thank you so much for your time. I expect you will be playing this episode over and over and over. And I will see you back next time.
Thank you all for listening to the Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. If you like this episode, please write a juicy comment below and subscribe to my podcast. Remember, we can only fly if we embrace each other. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and be kind to yourself.